Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. As a business owner, you've done the hard yards to market your brand, get yourself in front of customers, and launch an exceptional product or service. But it can all be for naught if you've infringed on an existing trademark. So how often does it happen? Well, much more than you think, says lawyer Tracey Mylecharane. She sees a lot of businesses lose precious time, money and effort on an exciting new idea only to be told to cease and desist. Due diligence, research and thorough preparation at the beginning of development will prevent this kind of heartache when it's time to go to market. First, let's get more information on what a registered trademark actually is, as Tracey explains to Chris Ashmore.
It's the right to use a word or a phrase exclusively to the exclusion of all others. So take, for example, Rode microphones, RODE. It's my podcasting microphone. The owners have a trademark over the word Rode, RODE. That means that nobody else in the industry selling electronics or microphones can use that name because it's trademarked and they have exclusive rights to use that word.
This may be an obvious question, but why would a business register a trademark?
A business will make an application to register a trademark if it's important to that business that they do have exclusivity over a name or a phrase. Usually it's a business name or a program name or a product name or a tagline in their business. And some businesses invest significantly in developing unique taglines or names for their business or products or offerings. And so it's important to them that they preserve their rights to use that name or phrase. And so that's when they apply for a trademark, to give them that exclusivity.
But you can't just register any old word or phrase, though, can you? What boxes do you have to tick to be awarded a trademark?
Great point, and you're absolutely right, Chris. You can't register anything just because you want to. It needs to be trademarkable. So, in short, to be trademarkable, it needs to be unique to you and something you use. For example, I can't register my business name, TM Solicitor. It's not unique to me. TM is the acronym for trademark, and the word solicitor is something that needs to be used by other solicitors. But look at Haig's Chocolates. Haig's Chocolates have registered a trademark over the name Haig's, as have Rode, RODE, microphones. It is exclusive to them. It's unique to them. It's trademarkable.
Now, before launching a new product or service, or even a podcast, is it worth checking to see if that new name for that product has been registered already?
Indeed. I see all too often when clients come to me in a state of stress or angst, they've received a cease and desist letter in relation to a new offering that they've launched into the world. And yes, there have been clients that have come to me after having launched a podcast with a cease and desist letter from somebody saying, I actually hold a registered trademark over the name that you're using. You must stop. And most of the time, that's correct, and they must stop. It is definitely worth doing your due diligence before you launch a new offering with a name to make sure you're not infringing on an existing trademark.
So how do you do the due diligence? How do you check?
The easiest way to check is by going to the IP Australia website and navigating your way through to search existing Australian registered trademarks. It's not as easy, it's not all that intuitive, but you spend some time digging around. You can always reach out to your business lawyer, of course, and they can help you with your due diligence. But if you can spend some time navigating the IP Australia website, all of the registered trademarks are on there.
What happens if you do start using that trademark before checking? Of course, you get a cease and desist letter, but anything else that can happen?
The cease and desist letter is the scariest thing that can happen and the most effective, because if you are infringing on somebody else's registered trademark, legally you are obliged to cease using that name or phrase. You don't want to ignore a cease and desist letter because you could end up potentially facing a claim for damages. Depending on the industry, the registered holder's business, what you're doing, it really is a slippery slope once you go there, but it is fraught, high risk, and not something you want to knowingly be doing.
Is it only trademarks that you should check before launching a new product?
No, if you are going to launch something new, as a part of your due diligence, and I think everybody should be doing their due diligence whenever they're considering any new venture, offering, product, podcast, whatever, you really need to search and see what else is happening in your industry around the name or phrase that you're considering. And you do that through business name searches, ASIC register searches, checking URLs to see what else is happening and who else is using something identical or similar to what you're about to bring into the world. Because in addition to the trademarks legislation, there's also legal rules around what's called passing off. And that just means that if you're confusing the public by using what you're using and doing what you're doing, then you could be on a different slippery slope in terms of infringements and allegations of damages claims. So you need to be careful and you need to be really aware of what's happening in your industry with the name or phrase that you're considering using.
Well, let's say you are launching a new product and you've done the due diligence. There is no trademark on that particular word or the phrase. Is it a good idea then to nab that trademark yourself?
If it's trademarkable and if it's important to your business that you have exclusivity, then yes. The reason I say that is because there are times where the name or phrase you're wanting to use is not capable of being trademarked, and that's why it hasn't been. And people fall into error when they search the IP Australia registered trademarks list and they look for their phrase or their name and it's not there and they think, fantastic, it's available. But it doesn't work like that. Let's take the Profit Academy as a great example. The Profit Academy is not trademarked. There is no trademark on the IP Australia website for the Profit Academy. That's because it's not trademarkable. It's not unique enough to a particular business or their offering, which means there can be many, many businesses that have an offering in their business called the Profit Academy. And indeed there are. And I've had clients come to me in relation to this particular phrase because they wanted to trademark it, but it's not trademarkable, which means you can use it, Chris, and I can use it, but we can't stop each other from using it. Does that matter to you and I? It may not, in which case you don't need to worry about a trademark. But if I'm investing in something and I'm putting a lot of emphasis and time and energy and money into branding my new offering, chances are it's going to be important to me that I have exclusivity. So I'm going to want to come up with something other than the Profit Academy. I need something that I can trademark, and that's where my energy and focus should go.
And is there a case of if you don't use it, you lose it?
Absolutely. Once you are a registered trademark holder, you need to use it. Otherwise, somebody else can apply for it and then they can challenge your trademark on the basis that it hasn't been used, and IP Australia can simply remove yours if you can't produce evidence of proof of use. So yes, you do need to use it.
Let's say you're a small business, you don't really have the funds or the resources, but you've trademarked a particular word or phrase and you see that a big, well-known brand, a big company is using it. How do you deal with that organisation? And because they're so big, can they ignore your pleas of cease and desist? And what situation can you get yourself into there?
It's really a strategic angle that you need to come at that with, because the legal position doesn't change based on the size of your business. So you are in a solid legal position if a larger organisation or corporation is infringing on your trademark. They may call your bluff though. That's the strategy involved. So if they were to call your bluff, you send a cease and desist letter, say, and you tell them, please stop using it or else I'm going to have to make an application to court to seek an order that you stop using it. They may choose to ignore you thinking, well, that small business doesn't have funds, so we're just going to ignore them. It's wholly improper. Morally and ethically, there's an issue there, but it does happen. So the strategy that that larger organisation or corporation may choose to use is let's call their bluff and see what happens. You then have a decision to make. Do you make that application to the court or not?
That's where you need to get some advice.
It is. And what I say to my clients is the reality is we have a legal system, Chris, not a justice system. So sometimes there are hard decisions to be made, and funding and the commerciality of different options carries weight, need to be considered.
Well, we've covered a lot. There's a lot to think about with this aspect of the law, but any final thoughts?
If you're unsure about whether something that you're using is trademarkable, get some advice to understand your options and be sure so that you're making informed decisions going forward. We don't have to trademark everything. As long as you're making an informed decision that's right for your business, then you can have confidence going forward.
That was lawyer Tracey Mylecharane. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.